If someone told him that the fastest way to relax is to stop trying to relax, he would have laughed and then secretly wished it were true. Because most people don't suffer from a lack of information. They suffer from a mind that never takes its hands off the steering wheel. Here's the strange truth Zen keeps repeating in different outfits. The mind doesn't calm down because you force it to. It calms down when it feels safe enough to stop performing. And that's the paradox. Your effort to feel better can be the very thing keeping your nervous system on guard. So this isn't a video about becoming a different person. It's about becoming lighter inside the person you already are. 3 hours that don't demand perfection, don't demand belief, and don't demand you get it right. Just stories, simple teachings, and a slow return to the part of you that knows how to breathe without negotiating. And yes, there's something a little provocative here. Most people are exhausted not because life is hard, but because they're arguing with life all day in their head. They rehearse conversations that never happen. They solve problems that aren't real yet. They carry guilt like a backpack they forgot they're wearing. So he starts with a quick reward, something you can feel immediately. While listening, you'll notice moments where the shoulders drop without permission. The jaw softens. The chest stops bracing. Not because the world changed, but because your relationship with the moment changed. This is the promise of everyday Buddhism. Not big words, not distant monasteries, not one day I'll be peaceful. Just real mental relief you can touch while you're tired, while you're busy, while you're human. And the curiosity that keeps pulling you forward is simple. What if the peace you've been chasing isn't at the end of fixing yourself, but hidden in the tiny places you keep skipping? One breath, one thought, one story at a time. At night, a person lies down, turns off the lights, and thinks, okay, now I'll sleep. And somehow the mind answers, cute idea. Suddenly, it opens a grocery list, replays a weird conversation from 2017, and invents a full debate. The harder they try to turn it off, the louder it gets, like a child throwing a tantrum in a quiet room. Because the mind isn't a lamp, it's closer to the ocean, and nobody turns off the ocean by yelling at it. The first Zen secret is simple, and a little annoying. There's no button. What exists is a skill. Stop feeding what's already running. The mind races because it was trained to scan, predict, fix, and protect. It does that all day, and when the person lies down, it just keeps working overtime. The room gets silent, and the inner noise becomes obvious. It's not more thoughts. It's less distraction. He's seen it in others, and he's lived it too. The body is exhausted, but the brain is acting like it drank espresso in secret. And then sleep becomes a task, a goal, an exam, a deadline. The mind senses pressure and thinks, danger, failure. So anxiety flips on, and rest becomes performance. Nobody relaxes during a performance review. Zen starts when the question changes. Instead of, how do I stop thinking? It becomes, what am I feeding right now? Because thoughts are like a fire. They shrink when there's less fuel. Fuel can be worry, comparison, guilt, control, what if, and too much future. When someone stops throwing logs in, the flame won't die instantly. But it will soften, and that's the beginning. Here's a practical move that works without any mystical drama. The 10% volume drop. Don't try to silence the mind. Try to lower it by 10%. Like turning down a radio, not smashing it with a hammer. Unclench the jaw. Drop the shoulders. Unfurrow the forehead. Yes, the forehead counts. Then breathe in for 4, out for 6, 6 times. The body understands this message before the mind does. Another tool is giving the mind a parking spot. Keep a notepad by the bed. No fancy journal, just paper. Write 3 lines. What worries me? What I can control? What I will release? Then finish with 1 sentence. I'll handle this tomorrow. Awake. It's not denial. It's boundaries. And boundaries are relaxing. Most people miss this. The mind loves stories. It takes a tiny fact and upgrades it into a full movie in 4K. They didn't reply becomes they hate me becomes I'll be alone forever. When the body is tired, the mind sells those scripts like their reality. So the training is to notice this is a story, not a fact. And honestly, the relief can be funny. Wow, my brain is dramatic. A simple analogy. Thoughts are notifications. Not every notification is urgent. Many are just noise begging for attention. If you click every one, you'll never rest. Zen teaches an inner gesture. See the notification? Don't tap it. Notice worry. Notice planning. Notice self-criticism. Then return to the body. No argument, no lecture, just return. If someone wants solid, accessible reading, 3 books help a lot. The miracle of mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh, is gentle and practical. Zen mind, beginner's mind, Shunryu Suzuki, is simple but deep. Wherever you go, there you are. Jon Kabat-Zinn keeps it grounded. The point isn't to become a monk, it's to become a friend to your own mind. Here's the counterintuitive part. The goal isn't stop thinking. The goal is stop sticking. When someone sticks, they become the thought, become the fear, become the problem. When they observe, they become the one noticing the thought. That tiny distance is peace, and peace is the doorway to sleep. He often says sleep is shy. If you stare at it, chase it, demand it. Sleep hides. But if you return to the body, breath, blanket weight, warmth, sleep approaches. Like a cat. Run after it, and it disappears. Sit calmly, and it shows up. That's why Zen emphasizes softness over force. Force is gasoline for the mind. Try a tiny practice. 30 seconds of one thing. Pick one detail. Air at the nostrils, or the farthest sound in the room. Stay with it for 30 seconds like it's the most important thing on earth. When the mind wanders, return gently. No scolding, no ugh again. The return is the workout, not the mistake. And workouts build strength. Over time, a pattern shows up. The mind speeds up when someone tries to control people, outcomes, and intentions. It slows down when they accept what is, do what they can, and release the rest. That's equanimity in real life. Steady inside, lighter outside, not numb, stable, like a tree root on a windy day. And stability feels like rest. But there's one last trap. The mind loves to blame. It wants to assign bad intentions to everything. A look, a tone, a late reply. Suddenly it becomes disrespect, betrayal, threat. And that fills the night with invisible enemies, which sets up the next teaching perfectly. Because the next story begins with a boat drifting straight toward you. He'll start with a scene that feels almost unfairly familiar. A person is having a calm day. Then something bumps into them. A rude comment, A car cuts in, a message gets ignored, and instantly the mind writes a story. They did that to me. That story hits the nervous system like an alarm. Now the body is in battle mode, over a guess. In the Zen story, a man rows on a quiet river at sunset. Another boat comes straight toward him, not changing direction. He warns, then shouts, then gets furious, ready to explode. The boats collide, and he whips around to confront the idiot. But the other boat is empty. No person, no intention, just current. And his anger collapses in 1 second. The lesson isn't nothing matters. The lesson is intention is what the ego uses as fuel. When the mind believes there was disrespect, it tightens the jaw and fists. When the mind sees maybe it wasn't personal, the body softens. Same event, different inner world. So the true collision was inside him. Modern life is basically an empty boat factory. A coworker doesn't greet you, and the mind says they're arrogant. Your partner is quiet, and the mind says they're pulling away. A friend takes hours to reply, and the mind says they don't care. Most of the time, you don't know the real reason. You just know the story you invented. And here's the brutal part. You pay for your own story. You pay with cortisol, tension, insomnia, and that tight chest at night. He's seen people carry a 5-second moment into a 5-hour rumination. Not because the event was huge, because the interpretation was, Zen calls this adding a person to the empty boat. You paint a villain onto the situation, a useful analogy. It's like reading a text in all caps. Even if the words are neutral, your brain hears aggression, so you respond defensively. And now the relationship is tense. But the original message wasn't aggressive. Your tone filter was. The empty boat story is a tone filter for life. It asks, am I sure about the intention? This connects directly to sleep. At night, the mind replays collisions from the day. It rebuilds scenes, changes dialogue, imagines comebacks, proves points, and the body responds as if it's happening now. Heart rate rises. So one unseen empty boat becomes a midnight courtroom. No wonder the pillow feels like a battleground. He teaches a simple practice called name the story. When the mind says, they disrespected me, label it story. When it says, this will go wrong, label it prediction story. When it says, I'm not enough, label it identity story. No fighting, no analysis, just naming. Naming breaks the spell. Then comes the second step. What else could be true? Not to be naive, just to be fair. Maybe the coworker is dealing with family stress. Maybe the driver is rushing to pick up a kid. Maybe the silence isn't rejection, it's exhaustion. This question opens space, and space reduces heat. The body loves space. A practical example he gives is traffic. When someone cuts in, the ego screams, they stole my place. But the truth is, you still arrive. Your dignity wasn't injured. Your expectation was. So he practices saying, quietly, empty boat. Not as weakness, but as self-protection. If someone wants a concrete night version of this, it's powerful. Before sleep, pick one moment that still irritates you. Write 2 columns, my story and what I know for sure. Most of the time, for sure is just, they didn't reply, or they cut in. The rest is imagination trying to feel safe by being certain. Seeing this on paper is humbling, in a good way. There's also a body cue. Anger is loud in the body first. Tight throat, clenched teeth, hot face, narrow vision. He calls these bells, not enemies. When the bell rings, you pause and breathe out longer than you breathe in. That one change tells the nervous system, no fight needed. You don't argue with the wave, you surf it. Zen doesn't tell you to accept abuse or ignore boundaries. It tells you not to poison yourself while you handle it. You can be firm without being consumed. You can say no without carrying hatred to bed. The empty boat doesn't remove your strength. It removes unnecessary suffering. If you want a book that pairs well with this theme, he suggests one. Nonviolent Communication, Marshall Rosenberg, helps separate facts from stories. It trains you to speak from needs, not accusations. And when communication improves, rumination shrinks. Less inner drama means more sleep. It's surprisingly connected. Now, the most interesting twist. Even yourself can be an empty boat. People get angry at their past self. How could I be so stupid? But the past self had less information, less maturity, less strength. So instead of attacking, you learn from it and let it drift away. That's when guilt stops haunting the night. By the end, the person realizes something liberating. Many enemies were just empty boats with scary stories painted on them. And once you stop painting, the river becomes quiet again. But then a new question appears. If anger is optional, what about pain itself? He brings the listener into a scene that feels like anxiety in story form. A monk walks a mountain path, calm at first, breath steady and simple. Then a tiger roars, and the body does what bodies do: panic, sprint, survive. It's the oldest software in the human brain, and it runs fast. Most people recognize that feeling instantly. Heart racing, mind shouting. And the point is not to shame it, but to understand it. The monk runs and grabs a vine hanging from a cliff. Above him, a tiger waiting. Below him, another tiger pacing. So he's suspended between two dangers. No right move, no clean exit. This is how worry feels when it really locks in. Trapped between outcomes. Up there is the past, what already happened, what can't be undone. Down there is the future, what might happen, what you can't control. Then the strange miracle happens. He notices a strawberry. Not a metaphor at first, an actual ripe red strawberry near his hand. He picks it and eats it, slowly, like it's the only thing in the universe. And for one breath-long moment, the mind stops time traveling. No replay, no prediction, no panic script, just taste. Sweet, bright, real, like life tapping him on the shoulder. The mentor's voice makes it clear, Zen is not denial. The tigers are still there. The cliff is still a cliff. Reality is unchanged. What changes is the relationship to reality, how the mind holds it. He doesn't win by escaping. He wins by becoming present. This is why the story lands so hard with people who can't sleep, because insomnia is often two tigers in the dark. He explains it like this. The mind loves two fake jobs. Job one, rehearse the past, as if replaying can rewrite it. Job two, rehearse the future, as if worrying can prevent it. Both jobs pretend to be helpful, but they exhaust the body. And at bedtime, those jobs suddenly go full-time with overtime pay. That's why your pillow can feel like a conference room. He gives a simple Relatable analogy. A browser with 27 tabs open. One tab is a mistake you made, one is a bill, one is a weird text message. Your brain's fan is loud, your battery is hot, and nothing loads smoothly. The strawberry moment is closing tabs without smashing the laptop. Not forcing silence, just returning to what's actually on the screen. Right now, this breath, this blanket, this room. He shares a personal style example in third person, like a quiet confession. He once noticed that his most anxious nights started with one small thing. A tone in someone's voice, a headline, an unfinished task. Then the mind tried to solve the entire universe at 2:17 a.m. So he tested the strawberry practice. 1 minute of real sensation. Not positive thinking, just honest contact with the moment. Iharifke Sreed. His practical method is almost comically simple. Find one strawberry. It can be the taste of water, the warmth of the mug, the cool pillowcase. It can be the sound of rain, a fan, distant traffic turning into white noise. The mind will complain, "This won't fix my life." And he nods. True, it won't fix your life in 1 minute, but it can fix this minute. And a calm minute is how calm nights begin. He teaches a breath trick that doesn't feel mystical or complicated. Inhale normally, then exhale a little longer than the inhale. The longer exhale signals safety to the nervous system. It's like telling your body, no tiger is actually in this bedroom. Do it 5 times without judging whether it worked. Effort is the enemy. Gentle repetition is the friend. Then he adds grounding, because some people need more than breath. He uses the 5 to 4 to 3 to 1 method. 5 things you see, 4 you feel, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, 1 you taste, or imagine tasting. It's the strawberry practice expanded into a full-body anchor, and it pulls attention out of the movie in your head, back into the chair, the bed, the present. He makes an important point. Presence isn't only for pleasant strawberries. Sometimes the strawberry is simply noticing your sadness without running, or feeling the tight chest with curiosity instead of arguing with it. This is where the teaching gets mature and real, not just poetic. Because peace isn't a perfect mood, it's a steady relationship with moods. And that steadiness is what finally allows rest. He recommends a couple of friendly doorway books for this mindset. Peace is every step, Thich Nhat Hanh, for everyday presence without drama. Wherever you go, there you are, Jon Kabat-Zinn, for practical mindfulness. Read Tuailyu. He frames them like tools, not trophies. No need to finish them fast. Read a few pages, test one practice, sleep a little better. That's a real win, not an Instagram win. He also sneaks in a gentle warning with a smile. If you wait for the tigers to disappear, you'll postpone peace forever, because life will always offer something. Deadlines, loss, noise, uncertainty. Zen doesn't promise a tiger-free world. It teaches tiger-proof attention. And the strange truth is, attention is lighter than anxiety. It weighs less on the chest when the lights go out. Toward the end, he reframes the whole story in one sentence. Most suffering is not the cliff. It's the time travel. The past tiger and future tiger are real experiences, but not right now. Right now, there's only this breath and something small to savor. And once the listener feels that, even briefly, the shoulders drop. The mind realizes it can loosen its grip. He leaves a quiet, open loop that naturally leads to the next teaching, because someone will ask, okay, but what about real pain? Not imagined pain, not worry, actual heartbreak, illness, disappointment. He hints, the next story explains why pain is one thing and suffering is another. And once you see the difference, you stop stabbing yourself twice. That's where the two arrows walk in. He tells it like a calm diagnosis, not a motivational speech. A person gets hit by an arrow, and it hurts. Simple, undeniable. That first arrow is life, illness, loss, rejection, fatigue, bad news. Nobody manifests the first arrow by thinking wrong thoughts. It lands because bodies break, people leave, and plans fail. Zen starts by respecting reality instead of arguing with it. Then comes the twist that makes people sit up inside themselves. After the first arrow, the mind shoots a second arrow into the same wound. That second arrow is the inner commentary. This shouldn't be happening. Or, I can't handle this. Or, why me? Or, it's over for me. The first arrow is pain. The second is the story that multiplies pain. And most people realize they've been hit twice for years. He uses a modern analogy that clicks fast. A cracked phone screen. The crack is the first arrow. Annoying, real, sometimes expensive. The second arrow is smashing the phone against the wall in frustration. Now the problem doubled. And the hand hurts too. Congratulations. It's funny for a second, then it lands. That's exactly what the mind does. It breaks itself trying to punish reality for being real. He explains why the second arrow feels so automatic. The brain is a survival machine, and it hates uncertainty. So when pain shows up, the mind tries to regain control with meaning. It assigns blame, predicts disaster, replays scenes, demands guarantees. That strategy is understandable, but it's like pouring gasoline on a candle. You're not safer, you're just more on fire. He calls out 3 classic second arrows people shoot without noticing. Arrow 1, aversion, pushing the pain away with inner resistance. Arrow 2, identification, turning there is pain into I am pain. Arrow 3, mental overgrowth. One thought becomes a whole jungle. A headache becomes, what if it's serious? Then my life is ruined. The body had a sensation. The mind built a horror franchise. He shares a personal style moment in third person, quietly human. He once watched someone get a small criticism at work and spiral for days. The first arrow was one comment, sharp, unpleasant, but survivable. The second arrows were dozens, rehearsing revenge, self-hate, doom planning. By day 3, the comment wasn't even the problem anymore. The person was exhausted from fighting a ghost. He offers the simplest practice. Name the arrows without drama. First arrow, disappointment. That's it. No thesis. No courtroom. Second arrow, I'm telling myself I'm not enough. Notice the difference. Naming creates space, and space is where choice starts breathing again. Not a huge choice, just a tiny one. Don't shoot again. A small mercy, repeated, becomes a new habit. He gives a body-first trick because thinking can't always fix thinking. He suggests placing one hand on the chest, one on the belly. Not to look spiritual, just to remind the nervous system, I'm here. Then exhale slowly, as if fogging a mirror with warm breath. If tears come, fine. Tears can be first arrow energy leaving. The goal is not comfort, It's honesty without self-attack. He brings it into daily life with examples that feel painfully familiar. First arrow, someone cancels plans. Second arrow, I'm unwanted forever. First arrow, you make a mistake. Second arrow, I always ruin everything. First arrow, bills are tight. Second arrow, I'll never be okay. He points out the pattern gently. The word always is usually an arrow. So is never, everyone, and nothing. The mind's favorite exaggerations. He gives a practical pause script people can steal immediately. When pain shows up, say, okay, this is the first arrow. Then ask, what second arrow am I about to fire right now? If the mind says, but it's true, he doesn't argue. He redirects. Even if it's true, is it helpful at 2:08 a.m.? That question alone can lower the volume by half. He adds a subtle humor line to keep it from getting heavy. He says, the mind is like a dramatic friend who loves plot twists. It sees a flat tire and announces, this is the end of my life arc. So he treats it with kindness and boundaries. Thanks, but not tonight. Not suppressing thought, just not letting it drive the car. Because the mind is a great servant and a terrible boss. He recommends a couple of grounded resources for this exact skill. Full Catastrophe Living, John Kabat-Zinn, for working with pain realistically. When Things Fall Apart, Pema Chodron, for staying open when it hurts. He frames them like medicine, not homework. One chapter, one practice, done. No perfection required. Showing up counts more than getting it right. Zen is built for humans, not robots. He explains the deeper payoff that viewers feel emotionally. When you stop shooting second arrows, you don't become numb, you become cleaner inside, less tangled, less ashamed, less reactive. Pain still visits, but it doesn't get a second bedroom in your mind. That's why this teaching helps with sleep. Fewer mental battles at night. The body relaxes when it's not being attacked from the inside. Then he drops a bridge into the next story without closing the chapter. Because someone will say, but what about grief that feels impossible? Not just discomfort, real loss, real heartbreak, real endings. He hints that the next lesson isn't about getting over it. It's about realizing you're not alone in it. Never were. And that's where the mustard seed story quietly enters the room. He introduces this one softly because it touches a raw place. A mother loses her child, and her mind refuses to accept the ending. She walks door to door with a desperate hope. Someone fix this. Not because she's foolish, but because love makes denial feel logical. Grief can be so loud that reality starts sounding like a mistake. And Zen doesn't shame that. It understands it. Then, the Buddha gives a request that sounds simple at first. Bring me a mustard seed from a house that has never known death. It's not a trick to humiliate her. It's a path to waking up gently. Because arguments don't soften grief. Experience does. So she goes, hopeful, knocking, asking, searching for the one house. And that search becomes the teaching. Every door gives her the same answer in a different costume. My father died. My sister died. My husband died. The details change, but the shape of the truth stays the same. Loss doesn't check your bank account, your age, or your plans. It visits every home eventually, like rain that doesn't pick favorites. And slowly, her loneliness starts to crack. He points out why this story lands so hard for people. Because grief often says, "No one understands my pain." And in a way, it's true. No one feels it exactly like she does. But the deeper truth is, everyone knows the language of loss. When she realizes that, the pain doesn't vanish, yet it becomes less isolating. It turns from me versus the world into me inside the human family. He adds a modern analogy that feels almost unfairly accurate. Grief is like walking into a crowded room wearing invisible weight. Everyone looks normal, laughing, ordering coffee, checking their phones, and you think, how are they not collapsing like I am? This story reveals the secret. Many of them are carrying weight too. They're just carrying it under their coat. He also explains the Buddha's strategy like a wise mentor would. The Buddha doesn't say, "Stop crying, everything is impermanent." That would be like tossing a philosophy book at a broken heart. Instead, he gives her a mission that moves her body through the truth. Step by step, the truth enters her nervous system, not just her mind. It's compassion disguised as a task. He highlights a painful detail people miss. She wanted an exception, not a lesson, not wisdom, an exception to reality. And that's where suffering often hides. In the sentence, "This shouldn't be." The loss is the first wave, but "it must not be true" is the undertow. Zen doesn't call her weak for that. It calls it human. Then it gently teaches. Reality doesn't negotiate, but you can soften. He shares a third-person, seen-it-up-close moment to make it real. He once watched someone keep a room untouched after a breakup. Same pillow, same mug, same playlist. Like freezing time would protect them. The pain wasn't only the ending, it was the daily attempt to reverse it. When they finally accepted the ending, they didn't forget the love. They stopped bleeding extra from fighting the calendar. He gives a practical, simple exercise that doesn't sound like therapy speak. He suggests writing one sentence. "This hurts because I loved." Then another. Others have hurt like this too. Not to minimize the pain, but to reconnect the person to humanity. Grief isolates. This practice reintroduces connection without forcing cheerfulness. It's like opening a window in a room that's been locked. He offers an everyday version of the mustard seed lesson. When life breaks something, plans, friendships, routines, ask one question. Who else is living through something like this right now? It's not comparison, it's companionship. Sometimes that question is enough to make a harsh night feel survivable. Because the mind relaxes when it stops feeling singled out. He uses light humor carefully, like a candle, not a spotlight. He says the mind wants a VIP pass. "Not me, thank you." As if suffering is a party we can decline with good manners. But life doesn't run on invitations. It runs on seasons. Spring comes, winter comes, and no one gets to skip the weather. The win is learning how to dress for it with wisdom. He also points to the hidden gift without calling it a gift too fast. Impermanence sounds scary until you notice it works both ways. Pain doesn't stay forever either. No emotion can hold the throne permanently. Even the sharpest grief changes shape with time, breath, and support. That doesn't dishonor love. It proves the heart is built to continue. And that's a quiet kind of strength. He adds 2 grounded recommendations for people who want depth, not fluff. When things fall apart, Pema Chodron, for staying open when life hurts. On grief and grieving, Kubler-Ross and Kessler for naming what's happening inside. He frames books like companions, not homework. One page is enough on a hard day. Zen is not about finishing grief. It's about not abandoning yourself in it. That's a different kind of progress. He brings it back to sleep in a way that feels human and doable. At night, grief often returns because the distractions go offline. So he suggests a simple ritual. Hand on heart. Whisper. Many have felt this. Not as a mantra to erase pain, but as a reminder you're not alone in the dark. The body softens when it feels accompanied, even by truth itself. And that softness is where rest can begin. Then he sets the hook for the next lesson without closing the door. Because once people accept loss is universal, a new question appears. Okay, but how do I stop labeling everything as good or bad while it unfolds? That's where the next story steps in with one stubborn word. Maybe. Not passive, not cold, just wise enough to wait for the full picture. And that's the bridge into the farmer and the horse. He tells this story like a mirror because it catches people fast. A farmer lives quietly, works hard, and doesn't chase drama. Then life does what life loves to do. It changes the script overnight. His neighbors react like a live comment section. Loud, certain, emotional. But the farmer answers with one calm word that sounds too simple. Maybe. Or, we'll see. One morning, the farmer's only horse runs away. The neighbors rush in with their verdict. That's terrible luck. They speak like they're finishing the story for him, right there. And the farmer doesn't argue, doesn't smile smugly, doesn't collapse. He just nods like someone who's seen life unfold before. We'll see. A few days later, the horse comes back, with wild horses behind it. Now the neighbors return, switching the caption instantly. Amazing luck. Same volume, same certainty. Just a different label slapped on top. The farmer looks at the new horses, then at their excited faces. And again, he refuses to pretend he knows the full meaning yet. We'll see. Then the farmer's son tries to tame one of the wild horses. He falls, breaks his leg badly, and the house turns into worry. The neighbors come back, now wearing sympathy like a uniform. Terrible luck, they say, as if luck is a permanent identity. The farmer doesn't deny the pain. He just denies the final judgment. We'll see. Not long after, soldiers arrive to draft young men into war. The village panics because everyone knows what war can take. The farmer's son is spared because of the broken leg. Suddenly, the neighbors return again, calling it incredible fortune. And the farmer's answer stays steady, like a rock in changing weather. We'll see. He explains why people love this story. It gives relief. Most minds treat life like a scoreboard. Win, lose, win, lose. That constant labeling keeps the nervous system on a roller coaster. The farmer shows a different power. Not predicting, not controlling, just steady. It's not magic. It's patience with the unfolding of reality. And patience is rare, so it feels like wisdom. He uses an analogy that makes it click in 1 second. Judging an event too early is like judging a movie from the trailer. A sad scene might be the turning point that saves the character later. A happy scene might set up the twist that changes everything. Life edits in slow motion, but the mind posts conclusions in real time. The farmer simply refuses to review the film before it ends. Then he brings it down to normal life. not monastery life. A job rejection can feel like disaster on Monday. On Friday, it might lead to a better offer, or a new skill, or a new city. A delayed flight feels like punishment until it prevents a worse problem. The event is one dot. The mind draws a whole picture from one dot. We'll see stops the mind from drawing too fast. He gives a simple practice that anyone can do, even stressed people. When something happens, take 3 slow breaths. No performance. Then name it like this. An event happened. My mind is labeling it. Add one phrase. I don't know the full story yet. That's the farmer's maybe, translated into modern language. It doesn't remove life's mess, just removes the extra panic. He also clarifies something important. Maybe is not numbness. The farmer still cares about his horse and his son. Equanimity doesn't mean he feels nothing. It means feelings don't drive the car. He can grieve without spiraling, hope without clinging, act without freaking out. It's like holding a cup gently instead of squeezing it until it cracks. Same life, different grip. He adds a practical journal tool that feels strangely powerful. 2 columns. What happened on the left? What story I'm telling on the right? Example, my friend didn't reply versus they don't care about me. Then he writes other possible stories, like they're overwhelmed, they're asleep. That one step breaks the illusion that the first story is the only truth, and the mind relaxes when it sees options. He jokes lightly that the neighbors are basically your group chat. One day they're like, Queen, you're winning. Next day, oh no, it's over. The farmer doesn't outsource his peace to other people's opinions. He listens, but he doesn't hand them the steering wheel. That alone is a life upgrade. He offers a few reading suggestions for people who want depth without heaviness. Zen mind, beginner's mind, Shunryu Suzuki, for steady, simple clarity. When things fall apart, Pema Chodron, for staying open when life turns. The things you can see only when you slow down, Hemin Sunim, for calm perspective. Not to collect wisdom, but to practice it in small moments each day. Because maybe is built through repetition, not inspiration. He ties it back to sleep, because night is when the mind loves predictions. In bed, the brain turns into a fortune teller with terrible accuracy. So he suggests a bedtime sentence. Tomorrow will unfold. I don't have to pre-live it. Put the day on the shelf like a book you can open again later. If something must be solved, it'll still be solvable after rest. For now, we'll see. And he leaves a quiet loop that pulls the next story closer. Because once you learn maybe, you'll face a harder test. What happens when someone brings you anger, criticism, or insults right to your face? Can you keep your peace without becoming cold or weak? That's where the next lesson walks in with a strange question about a gift. And it changes everything. He brings this story in like a calm slap of reality, because everyone knows what it's like to be hit by someone's mood, a rude comment, a passive-aggressive tone, a disrespectful message. And the mind instantly wants to fight, explain, defend, prove. But the teaching here is almost unfairly simple. You don't have to accept what's being handed to you. In the story, an angry man storms in full heat. He throws insults like stones, hoping the Buddha will flinch. He wants a reaction, because reaction feels like victory. And the Buddha just stays normal, present, steady. not frozen, not scared, not fake smiling, just unhooked. The angry man gets louder because silence feels insulting. People like drama because it confirms their story. If the Buddha yells back, the man can say, "See, I was right." So he escalates, searching for a crack in Buddha's calm. And that's where the Buddha does something genius. He asks a question instead of firing back. He asks, if someone offers you a gift and you don't take it, who does the gift belong to? The angry man, still angry, has to admit the obvious. It stays with the person who offered it. And suddenly, the whole room shifts. Because anger works the same way. The Buddha basically says, if I don't accept your anger, it remains yours to carry. That lands because it's not moralizing. It's physics of the mind. Negativity needs a receiver to complete the circuit. No receiver, no explosion, just a sad little spark. And the angry man starts to see his own burden. He explains it in a modern analogy people instantly feel. It's like someone trying to hand you a trash bag in a hallway. If you grab it, now you're the one holding the smell. If you don't grab it, the bag doesn't magically disappear. It's still theirs, awkward, heavy, and very much present. You just chose not to be the storage unit. He also makes it practical. Refusing the gift is not being weak. It's choosing where your nervous system spends its energy. Some people think calm means you're letting things slide. No, calm can be the strongest no in the room because it doesn't feed the fire with oxygen. It cuts the drama's food supply. Then he points out the hidden trap. Ego loves to win. The mind says, if I don't reply, I lose. But he reframes it. If you reply from rage, you pay twice. You pay in stress chemicals, and you pay in regret later. Winning the argument, but losing your peace is a bad deal. A very expensive deal. He adds a small habit that changes real conversations. When someone comes in hot, he suggests a 2-second pause. Not a dramatic pause, just one slow breath. Then a simple line. I hear you. I'm not available for insults. That sentence keeps dignity without escalating. It's compassion with a spine. He gives another example. Social media. The modern anger buffet. A stranger comments something sharp, and the fingers start typing. So he suggests a rule. Never answer when the body is tight. Jaw clenched, chest hot, shoulders up. Don't reply yet. Walk, drink water, breathe, then decide like an adult. It's boring, and that's why it works. He also teaches the return to sender practice, quietly, not as revenge, more like mental hygiene. You imagine the insult as a package at your front door. You don't open it. You don't decorate it. You don't store it. You just place it back outside. Not mine. Simple, almost silly, surprisingly effective. Then he goes deeper. Why is it so hard to refuse the gift? Because people confuse their identity with their emotions. They say, I am angry, like anger is their name tag. So letting go feels like losing a piece of themselves. But he teaches the shift. Anger is visiting me. Visitors don't own the house. He mentions a small self-check that prevents spirals. He asks, what am I protecting right now? Often it's pride, image, the need to be right, the need to be seen. When you name it, the heat drops a little, and you can choose response instead of reflex. That's the real freedom. He connects it to relationships, because that's where it matters most. Sometimes the angry person is someone you love. So refusing the gift can look like, I love you. Let's talk later. You don't punish. You don't abandon. You don't explode. You set a boundary and keep your heart open. That balance is advanced practice. He gives a light joke to keep it human. He says the ego is basically a toddler with a gavel. Order in the court. I'm offended. Sentence, chaos. The Buddha's method is adult energy. Calm, clear, direct. Not passive, not dramatic, just steady. And steady is contagious. He reminds the listener, this is for their sleep, too. Because at night, the mind replays insults like a broken playlist. So he suggests, if I didn't accept it, then I won't accept it now. Let the scene fade like a movie you're done watching. You don't need to re-enter the theater to suffer again. You can rest, and he leaves a hook that pulls the next teaching closer. Because even when you refuse anger, a fear remains underneath. Loss. What if things change? What if people leave? What if life breaks your cup? That's why the next story turns to a simple object, a teacup, and a sentence that sounds strange at first. This cup is already broken. He brings the listener into a quiet tea moment, almost like a soft reset. A simple clay teacup sits in the monk's hands, ordinary and warm. Nothing magical, until the monk says something that sounds wrong. This teacup is already broken, he says, smiling like he knows. The cup is clearly fine, which is exactly why the line hits so hard, because it forces the mind to see time differently. The student reacts the way most people would react. He looks at the cup like, Master, are we okay today? The cup isn't cracked, it isn't leaking, it isn't falling apart. So the student tries to correct him, thinking it's a mistake, but the monk isn't confused. He's pointing to a deeper truth. Everything is already broken because everything will change. The monk explains it without doom, without drama, without sadness. He isn't saying life is pointless. He's saying life is fragile and precious. The cup will break one day, tomorrow, next year, 30 years from now. So he holds it with full appreciation, without gripping it in fear. That's the shift. Love the cup, but don't build your peace on the cup. Enjoy it fully, without trying to freeze it in time. He makes the teaching practical. Clinging creates extra suffering. When someone says, I can't lose this, the mind starts shaking. It becomes anxious, controlling, jealous, tight, like a fist around water. The monk's already broken view relaxes the fist before life forces it open. Not because he's cold, but because he's realistic about impermanence. And realism is kinder than denial. He offers a modern analogy that people instantly recognize. It's like having a phone with a perfect screen and living in panic. Every movement becomes stress. Don't drop it. Don't scratch it. Don't breathe. So the phone owns the person, not the other way around. The monk would say, accept it can crack, then use it in peace. Care for it, yes. Worship it, no. He ties it to relationships in a way that feels personal and honest. People don't suffer only because someone leaves. They suffer because they demand that love never changes shape. So they tighten their grip, ask for guarantees, test loyalty, chase proof. The monk's view isn't don't love. It's love without chains. Love like a hand, not like a cage. He gives the listener a tiny practice that changes the heart fast. Before sleep, He suggests quietly naming 3 teacups from the day: a moment of laughter, a text from someone, a safe bed, a warm meal. Then he suggests one sentence: "This is precious because it won't last." That sentence doesn't ruin joy. It deepens it, like adding salt to food. Suddenly, the mind stops rushing past blessings. He also talks about identity, because that's where clinging hides. People cling to being the strong one, the successful one, the nice one. But life will break those labels sooner or later, like weather breaks umbrellas. If the person only feels worthy when the label stays intact, they suffer. So the monk teaches, hold roles lightly, keep the heart steady, be flexible, not brittle. He gives an example many people feel in silence. Someone loses a job, and it feels like the floor disappeared. But the already broken view says the floor was never permanent anyway. That doesn't make loss easy. It makes rebuilding possible, because the person stops asking, "Why did life betray me?" and starts asking, "What wants to be born now?" He adds a gentle humor so it doesn't turn heavy. He basically says, the mind wants a warranty on existence. Can I get the lifetime peace plan with 0 surprises, please? But life doesn't sell that subscription, and the refund policy is unclear. So wisdom is learning to live without demanding guarantees. That's the monk's quiet confidence. He shows how this idea improves gratitude instantly. If a person thinks they have time, they postpone presents. They postpone phone calls, hugs, apologies, sunsets, rest. But when they remember the cup breaks, they stop delaying love. They become quicker to forgive, quicker to say thank you, quicker to breathe. Impermanence becomes a teacher, not a threat. He also connects it to anxiety, because anxiety is future gripping. The mind tries to control tomorrow to avoid pain, but control is exhausting, and tomorrow still arrives wearing its own mood. So he suggests a softer approach. Prepare what you can, release the rest, like packing for a trip without trying to control the weather. You bring a jacket, not a tantrum. He points out a surprising paradox. Acceptance makes people more alive. When they stop pretending things will last forever, they stop numbing out. They taste food more slowly, listen to people more deeply, notice small beauty, because they're not sleepwalking through something temporary. They're awake inside it, and that awake feeling is peace. Not a perfect life, just a real one. He offers one more practical exercise for letting go. He suggests choosing one small object: a cup, a ring, a photo, a notebook. Then holding it and thinking, one day I won't have this. Not to scare the mind, but to soften the grip. And then saying, so today I will treat it with respect and enjoy it. That's non-attachment with warmth. He closes the topic by quietly widening the lens. If everything is already broken, then generosity becomes easier. Because the person stops hoarding, like fear is their religion. They start sharing time, attention, kindness, even resources more freely. And that sets up the next story perfectly. What the Buddha does with a robe. Because when you don't cling, giving stops feeling like loss. He places the listener inside a small village moment. A wealthy merchant arrives with a beautiful, expensive robe. The robe is meant to impress, to honor, to look generous. But the Buddha doesn't react like most people would. He doesn't reach for it, doesn't flatter the giver. doesn't perform gratitude. He pauses, like he's checking what the gift is really about. The merchant's intention looks good on the surface. He wants to show respect and feel close to something sacred. And to be fair, most humans do this. They give upwards. They donate where it looks noble, where it might be noticed. It's not evil, it's just human. Status sneaks into the heart quietly. The Buddha sees that without shaming him. So the Buddha refuses the robe, gently. Not because generosity is bad, but because the target is wrong. A simple monk already has enough cloth to cover his body. More luxury wouldn't reduce suffering, only decorate it. And Zen is allergic to decoration when people are freezing nearby. The refusal becomes a lesson, not a rejection. Then the Buddha redirects the gift like a wise strategist. He basically says, if you want to honor me, honor compassion. Take that robe and give it to someone who truly needs it. Someone who can't sleep because cold bites the skin at night. Someone whose dignity has been rubbed thin by scarcity. That is the gift that becomes real. The merchant hesitates because ego always hesitates. It's easier to give where it feels clean and glamorous. It's harder to give where it feels messy and ordinary. But he listens, and that's where the transformation begins. Because the Buddha isn't teaching charity, he's teaching clarity. Where does this help the most? Becomes the new question. He uses a modern analogy that lands instantly. It's like buying the newest phone for someone who already has 3. While a neighbor can't pay for basic medicine or school supplies, the gift looks huge online, but the impact is tiny in real life. The Buddha's wisdom is basically measure the effect, not the label. True generosity isn't a photo, it's relief. The story quietly exposes a trap. Gifting for applause. A person gives, then watches people's faces like a scoreboard. If the reaction isn't big enough, the giver feels offended. That's not giving, that's renting someone's gratitude. The Buddha cuts that knot by shifting focus to need. Need doesn't clap, it exhales. He also teaches enough, which is rare in modern culture. Most minds are trained to believe more is automatically better. More money, more recognition, more upgrades, more everything. But more without purpose becomes noise, not nourishment. The Buddha's refusal shows contentment as a form of freedom. A calm, I have enough, is a superpower. He gives a practical way to apply this without becoming extreme. He tells someone to look at 3 circles: self, close people, wider world. In each circle, ask, where can my resources relieve something real? Resources can be money, yes, but also time and attention. Even a sincere message to someone lonely can be a robe. It warms in ways fabric can't. He brings it into daily life with a simple practice. Before giving anything, pause for 10 seconds. No drama, just honesty. Ask, am I giving to be seen or giving to serve? Then ask, will this reduce stress, pain, or hardship for someone? If the answer is yes, it's likely wise generosity. If the answer is, it'll look good, the gift needs re-aiming. He also shows how generosity heals the giver, quietly. Because most anxiety is built on the illusion of separation. I must protect mine, because I'm alone in a harsh world. Giving breaks that illusion like cracking ice on a frozen lake. It reminds the nervous system, connection is real, and connection relaxes the mind. He shares an everyday example that feels painfully real. A person spends hours scrolling, buying small things to feel better, but 5 minutes helping someone, truly helping, changes the inner weather. That's because meaning is a better sedative than consumption. The Buddha doesn't preach against comfort. He teaches a deeper comfort, the comfort of being useful. He adds a gentle humor so it stays light. He'd say some people treat generosity like tipping a doorman. Here's my gift. Now open the gate of good karma for me. But life doesn't work like a vending machine with holy buttons. Giving is not a bribe. It's a mirror. It shows the heart where it still clings. He also warns, softly, about fake giving that creates harm. Sometimes people give advice when someone needs listening. They give opinions when someone needs presence. They give control disguised as help, which drains the other person. So the Buddha's lesson isn't give more, it's give cleaner. Give what nourishes, not what dominates. He offers concrete ideas people can try this week. Donate to a local food bank or support a family in hardship. Pay for someone's meal quietly. No announcement, no performance. Volunteer 1 hour. Shelter, community kitchen, elderly support. Or do attention charity. Listen to someone without interrupting once. Small gifts, big nervous system relief. He leaves a subtle hook that opens the next doorway. Because once giving becomes real, the mind becomes quieter. And when the mind is quieter, it can finally notice what it carries. Old grudges, heavy thoughts, pointless guilt, like stones in a backpack, which sets up the next teaching beautifully, putting the burden down. And that's where the two monks and the river begin. He brings two monks onto a muddy road after heavy rain. An older monk walks like he's already at peace with the mess. A younger monk walks like he's trying to stay pure inside a world that splashes. They reach a river, swollen and impatient, like life on a stressful Monday. A well-dressed woman is stuck, afraid to cross and ruin her clothes. And right there, compassion meets a rule. Without a speech, the elder monk lifts her and carries her across. He sets her down gently, like placing a cup on a table without a sound. No drama, no pride, no "look how holy I am," just simple help. Then he turns back to the path as if nothing happened. The younger monk follows, but his mind doesn't move forward. His feet walk, but his thoughts stay at the river. For hours, the younger monk boils inside his own head. He's not angry at the woman. He's angry at the wrongness of it. He keeps replaying it like a scene he can't stop rewinding. He wants the elder monk to feel guilty, to confirm the rule mattered. And the funny part is, the elder monk is already free. The younger one is the only prisoner in the group. Finally, the younger monk explodes. "We shouldn't touch women." He says it like a prosecutor who's been building a case all day. He expects a debate, maybe an apology, maybe a defense, but the elder monk answers with one line that stings with kindness. "I left her at the river hours ago," he says. "Why are you still carrying her?" That line is a mirror, and it catches almost everyone, because most people carry things long after the event ends. A comment from a coworker, a look from a stranger, a mistake from last month. The body is in bed, but the mind is still standing in the argument. And then people wonder why sleep feels like wrestling a ghost. The ghost is just yesterday, kept alive by attention. He explains it with a simple analogy. Mental tabs left open. A browser with 20 tabs will run slow, even on a good computer. The mind works the same way, except the tabs are emotions. Regret, anger, embarrassment, jealousy, each one consuming battery. The younger monk keeps a tab open on righteous outrage, and it drains him more than the river ever could. The deeper lesson isn't rules are useless. Its principles matter more than ego dressed up as morality. The elder monk acts from compassion, then lets go immediately. The younger monk acts from identity. I am the kind of monk who never... And identity loves to argue because argument makes it feel solid. Zen gently laughs and says, solid is an illusion. He brings it into everyday life with a painfully real example. Someone says, we need to talk, and the mind creates a whole movie. By nighttime, the person has fought 10 imaginary fights and won none. The event hasn't happened, but the stress has already been paid in full. That's carrying the woman across the river for hours and paying emotional toll for a bridge you never even crossed. He adds a light jab. The mind is like a dramatic friend. It hears one sentence and starts writing a 3-season series. Season 1 is what they meant. Season 2 is what I should have said. Season 3 is how I'll destroy them with logic next time. The problem is, none of those episodes improve real life. They just steal the one thing that heals, presence. So he offers a practical practice that feels almost too simple. After any triggering moment, do a 2-minute release. Name the feeling, anger, shame, fear, without explaining it. Then ask, is there an action I can take right now? If yes, do the smallest step. If no, let it be unfinished. Unfinished is not failure. Unfinished is reality. He also gives a tool for people who overthink at night. He suggests a parking lot note beside the bed. Write one sentence. Tomorrow, I'll handle Satri Kwao at 10 a.m. The brain relaxes when it sees a plan, even a small one. Then he says, don't solve it now, schedule it like an adult. Even the mind respects an appointment more than a panic. He shares a personal sounding moment, but still in third person. He remembers lying awake, replaying a conversation like a courtroom trial. He noticed his jaw tight, shoulders up, breath shallow like a scared animal. So he tried one thing. He unclenched his jaw on purpose and exhaled slowly. He told himself, I'm putting it down for tonight, not forever. And the body believed him enough to soften. He explains why this works without using fancy words. The nervous system doesn't understand logical arguments at 2 a.m. It understands safety, breathing, and whether the body is braced for attack. Rumination keeps the body braced, even if the danger is imaginary. Letting go is not forgetting, it's deactivating the alarm. You can revisit the issue later with a calmer brain. He shows a physical cue trick that makes it stick. He recommends opening the hand, palm up, like releasing a stone, then whisper, not now, and return attention to the breath. It sounds silly until it works, and then it's suddenly genius. The body loves signals more than speeches, and Zen is full of small signals. He ties it back to the elder monk's real mastery. He didn't carry the woman because he didn't carry the story. He helped, then returned to the step in front of him. That's freedom, responding without residue, like water that doesn't cling. Most people don't need more techniques. They need less dragging. Less dragging turns into deeper rest, almost automatically. He opens the loop toward the next teaching quietly. Because once someone learns to put it down, a new obstacle appears. They notice the mind is still full. Opinions, certainties, assumptions. It's like trying to pour tea into a cup already overflowing. So the next story asks a sharp question. What if the mind must empty first? And that's where the empty cup lesson begins. He introduces a respected professor who comes to meet a Zen master. The professor isn't rude on purpose, but his mind is loud with certainty. He has read the books, memorized quotes, compared traditions like a sport. He wants Zen, but he also wants to prove he already understands Zen. And that's the trap. The ego can turn learning into a performance, like showing up to a swim lesson wearing a tuxedo. The Zen master welcomes him warmly and offers tea first. No debate, no argument, just a calm invitation to sit down. The professor starts talking anyway, stacking ideas like plates in a buffet. He explains what Zen really means and how it relates to other schools. He's not listening to learn, he's listening to reply. And the master lets the moment teach him instead of correcting him. The master pours tea into the professor's cup and keeps pouring. The cup fills, then overflows, then spills onto the table and clothes. The professor finally stops mid-sentence, shocked. The cup is full. The master looks at him with the simplest honesty in the world. Exactly, he says. How can I give you anything new? If your cup is already full of your own ideas, that's the whole story. But it hits like a small lightning bolt, because most people don't realize they do this every single day. They ask for advice, but secretly want their opinion confirmed. They start a meditation, but demand it feel a certain way immediately. They listen to a teaching, but keep grading it like a school test. Zen smiles and says, "You're still pouring. Stop pouring." He explains the full cup in a modern way. Mental clutter. A closet packed with boxes can't fit anything else. And if someone tries to hand you a clean shirt, you'll say, "No space." The professor's mind is that closet. Organized, impressive, and unusable. Zen isn't anti-knowledge. It's anti-attachment to knowledge. Because attachment turns knowledge into a locked door. Then he points out a subtle thing people rarely notice. A full cup doesn't just block new ideas, it blocks direct experience. Instead of tasting the tea, the professor is thinking about tea. Instead of feeling the breath, the person is evaluating the breath. Instead of resting, the mind is reviewing the night like a manager. And sleep doesn't negotiate with managers. He brings in a gentle, practical exercise. Beginner mode. For 1 minute, act like you've never done this before, never breathed before, never laid in bed before, never listened before. He suggests noticing 3 simple facts: temperature, weight, and sound. That's it. No philosophy, no analysis, no spiritual Olympics, just raw contact with what's here. He also gives a second exercise that works in daily life. When someone speaks, wait 2 seconds before replying. Those 2 seconds are like opening space in the cup. Most people answer too fast because they're defending an identity. But the pause softens the inner armor and invites real hearing. It's awkward at first. Then it feels like freedom. He shows how the full cup ruins even good relationships. A partner says something small, and the mind says, "I know what this means." A friend cancels a plan, and the mind says, "They don't value me." A coworker is quiet, and the mind says, "They're mad at me." The cup fills with assumptions, and suddenly there's no room for reality. Zen calls this suffering, but honestly, it's just bad listening. He adds a light joke because it's true. The mind loves being right. Being right feels like winning, even when it ruins your peace. So he reframes it. Do you want to be right, or do you want to rest? That question is like a pin popping an overinflated balloon, because at night, being right won't hold your hand into sleep. But letting go might. He offers a small list of cup fillers people can notice. Over-explaining, over-planning, over-judging, over-checking, over-scrolling. Not because those are bad, but because they keep the mind crowded. He suggests one tiny swap. Scroll less for 5 minutes before bed. Replace it with something lighter, a page of a calm book, or silence. The cup starts to empty without a fight. When he mentions books, he keeps it simple and useful. He points to Zen mind, beginner's mind, short, clear, gentle. He suggests the miracle of mindfulness, easy, practical, not fancy. And for people who like stories, Old Path White Clouds can be soothing, not as homework, more like a warm lamp beside the bed. Read a few pages, then close it before the mind gets greedy. He shares a personal feeling moment, still in third person. He remembers trying meditation like a competition. Am I doing it right? He kept checking progress, like someone refreshing a loading bar. And the more he chased results, the more tense he became. Then one night, he tried a different approach. Nothing to achieve, and the body softened like it had permission. He makes the key point in plain language. Emptying the cup isn't becoming ignorant. It's becoming available. It's dropping the need to control the moment before it even arrives. Because control is loud, and rest is quiet. When the mind empties, the simplest things become enough again. A blanket, a breath, a small silence. He ties it back to the goal of the whole video: deep mental relaxation. People don't need to force the mind to be blank. They need to stop stuffing it with extra commentary. The professor didn't need more ideas, he needed space. And the viewer doesn't need perfect meditation. They need permission. Permission to not know, not fix, not chase. He opens a loop toward the next story without wrapping it up. Because once the cup empties, a new fear often shows up. The fear of emptiness itself. If I stop thinking, what's left? That's where Zen introduces a surprising image. A mirror covered in dust. Not to add anything, but to reveal what's already there. And that's exactly what the next teaching uncovers. He tells the story of a young musician who visits an old temple. Outside, the city is loud. Traffic, footsteps, voices, the usual chaos. Inside, something feels different, like the air itself is softer. The musician sits, closes his eyes, and listens like it's his job. And he notices a tiny rhythm under everything, a faint cricket song. Not dramatic, just steady, humble, almost invisible. He gets curious, because that's what musicians do, hunt for hidden layers. He follows the sound and finds a little cricket living in a wooden pillar. A small creature in a huge hall, singing without needing applause. He asks an elderly monk sweeping the floor if he heard it too. The monk smiles like he's been waiting for that exact question. Then he says something simple. Most people don't listen for it. The monk walks him to the entrance where tourists and noise pass by. He pulls out a single coin and drops it onto the stone floor. Clink, sharp, bright, and suddenly heads turn all at once. Everyone notices, like a flock reacting to the same signal. The monk points out the trick. Attention is trained, not natural. People hear what their minds have been trained to care about. He explains it like a gentle roast, not an insult. Money speaks a language most minds understand instantly, but quiet wisdom speaks in a whisper, and whispers need space. So the cricket keeps singing, but the mind keeps scrolling. It's not that life has no peace, it's that people don't tune in. They're always on, so they can't hear what's beneath. He connects that to why nights feel so loud inside the head. A person lies down, and the room is quiet, but the mind isn't. Thoughts start clinking like coins. Bills, memories, tomorrow, embarrassment. The brain thinks it's being useful, but it's just being noisy. And the more someone fights the noise, the more noise it makes. Like telling a chatty friend, "Stop talking," and they talk harder. He offers an analogy that lands fast. Attention is a flashlight. Where the flashlight points, the whole world seems to exist. If it points at worry, worry becomes the room's main furniture. If it points at breath, breath becomes the anchor in the storm. The cricket is the breath, always there, subtle, loyal, not demanding. The coin is the panic, loud, shiny, and oddly addictive. He gives a practical exercise that feels almost too easy. Tonight, he says, listen for the smallest sound you can find. Not the biggest one. Go hunting for the cricket layer. Maybe it's a fan, a distant car, the hum of electricity. When the mind drifts, don't scold it. Just return to that thin sound. This trains the nervous system to value quiet again. He adds a second exercise for people who can't stand silence yet. He calls it soft sound stacking, like building a calm playlist. First, notice the breath sound, air moving in and out. Second, notice a background sound, fan, rain, or white noise. Third, notice the heartbeat or the blanket shifting when you exhale. 3 layers, simple, steady, and surprisingly calming. He makes it relatable with a modern example: notifications. A phone buzz is basically a coin hitting the floor. It hijacks attention because the mind thinks something important. But most of the time, it's not important. It's just loud. So he suggests a tiny rule: 1 hour before sleep, phone on silent. Not forever, not dramatic, just one small gate closing. He brings in a small piece of humor to keep it human. He says the mind acts like a jealous toddler at bedtime. The moment the lights go off, it suddenly remembers 47 urgent things. Hey, let's solve your entire life right now. Classic toddler energy. So he recommends answering with kindness. Not now, little mind. And then returning to the cricket sound again. He explains why this works without heavy jargon. When attention rests on something soft, the body reads safe. Safety is the real switch that lets the system downshift. A tense mind is often just a scared mind wearing a suit. So listening gently isn't doing nothing. It's teaching safety. And safety invites sleep like a warm blanket invites the body. He gives a daytime version because practice isn't only for bedtime. While washing dishes, he says, listen for the quietest sound of water. While walking, listen for the softest footstep instead of the loudest thought. While eating, pause once to notice the sound of chewing. Strange, but grounding. These tiny moments train the mind to stop chasing coins all day. Then at night, the mind is less addicted to noise. He highlights a deeper point people love because it feels empowering. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of attention. A person can be in a quiet room and still be screaming inside. Or they can be in a noisy place and still feel calm in the center. The cricket teaches that peace is a skill, not a lottery ticket. And skills improve with gentle repetition, not force. He frames the lesson as identity-friendly, so people don't resist it. He doesn't say, "You must be a monk," or "You must meditate perfectly." He says the listener only needs to practice noticing, like learning a song. First you hear the melody, then you hear the harmonies, then the bass. Same life, same room, just a more refined way of listening. And that refinement makes the mind feel less trapped. He opens a loop toward the next topic by teasing the next step. Once someone can hear the cricket, a new question appears naturally. If I can rest in small sounds, can I rest in small moments too? That's where a simple object becomes a doorway, something like a strawberry. Not as a fantasy, but as proof that presence can be tasted. And he quietly leads into that, without forcing the ending. He tells a simple story. A student complains the mind won't shut up. 3 years of practice, and the thoughts still run like wild horses. The student wants a secret technique, something complicated and impressive. The master listens, nods, and does something almost annoyingly ordinary. He doesn't argue, doesn't lecture, doesn't hand over a thick book. He just says, "Come with me," like it's a normal walk. They walk down a mountain path in quiet, the kind of quiet that feels loud. The student keeps expecting a big revelation, maybe a sacred cave moment. Instead, the master sits near a cliff with a wide valley below. Then he pulls out 2 ripe strawberries, bright red, perfectly simple. He places one in front of the student like it's the whole lesson, and he says one word: "Eat." The student feels silly because the question was about suffering and peace. But he obeys, bites in, and the taste hits like a small miracle. Sweet, tart, alive. Suddenly the mind stops negotiating for a second. No past story, no future fear, no mental committee meeting. Just the strawberry and the act of tasting it fully. And for a brief moment, the student is free. The master asks gently, "Where was your mind while you ate?" The student realizes the answer without thinking too hard. It was here, right here, in the taste, in the mouth, in the now. Not in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's plans or old conversations. It wasn't trying to be mindful. It simply was mindful, because the experience was direct and the mind had no room to wander. Then the master drops the truth in a way that doesn't feel heavy. Peace isn't found by winning against thoughts like it's a boxing match. Peace is found by being so present that thoughts lose their grip. Not because thoughts are bad, but because they're not in charge anymore. Presence doesn't need permission. It's always available right now. Even when life isn't pretty and calm and Instagram friendly, he explains why people love this story. It's practical, not mystical. Nobody needs a special cushion, a temple, or a perfect morning routine. A strawberry is just a strawberry, and that's the whole point. If presence can happen in one bite, it can happen anywhere. It makes the listener feel, oh, I can actually do this. And that sense of I can is a relief all by itself. He adds a relatable twist. The mind is basically a chatty roommate. You don't fire it. You just stop letting it host the whole house. When you're present, the roommate can talk in the background, but you're not forced to answer every random question it shouts. Presence is like putting the roommate on speaker. In another room, you still hear it, but it can't hijack you. He gives a simple practice people can copy tonight. No drama. He suggests choosing one tiny action and doing it like it's sacred. Drinking water, brushing teeth, washing hands, turning off the light. 1 minute where the rule is only this, nothing else. Feel the temperature, the texture, the movement, the sound. And when the mind drifts, come back without scolding yourself. He offers another exercise for people who hate trying to meditate. He calls it the 3-sense anchor because it's easy to remember. Pick 3 senses and notice one thing in each right now. For example, the sound in the room, the weight of the blanket, the taste in the mouth. 3 little doors back into the present. No spiritual costume required. It's like pressing home on a phone when too many tabs are open. He makes it personal in a grounded way, like a mentor who's been there. He says he's watched people chase peace the way they chase Wi-Fi. They stand in mental corners, searching for better signal somewhere else, but the signal is already here. The phone just needs fewer apps running. Presence closes those background apps one by one, gently, and suddenly the mind stops overheating at bedtime. He explains the deeper logic without sounding like a textbook. The brain can't fully taste a strawberry and fully panic at the same time. Attention is limited. It can't be everywhere with full intensity. So when attention returns to direct experience, worry loses oxygen, not forever, not magically, but enough to soften the body. And softened bodies fall asleep more easily than armored ones. He also addresses the common objection. But strawberries are easy. Yes, he says, pleasant moments are the training wheels. The skill is learning the same presence with neutral moments too. The feel of breathing, the sound of a fan, the warmth of a pillow. Then, eventually, even difficult emotions can be met with presence, not to erase them, but to stop them from turning into monsters. He gives a practical tip for racing thought nights that feels compassionate. When thoughts come fast, he suggests naming them softly, planning, remembering, worrying. Not to judge them, just to stop merging with them. It's the difference between I am the storm and there is a storm. Then he invites the listener back to one sensation, the breath in the nose, small, steady, and always available. He shows why this keeps people watching. It builds hope in tiny steps. Each story makes the listener feel less broken and more capable. It isn't become a different person. It's return to what's already here. And that's a message people crave when life feels too fast. Presence becomes a real tool, not a pretty quote on a wall. And the viewer starts thinking, what else have I been missing? He opens the loop by pointing to the next challenge naturally. If presence can be tasted in a strawberry, what happens when pain shows up? Because life doesn't always hand out sweet moments on schedule. So the next lesson has to answer the hard question. What about suffering? That's where the old teaching of the two arrows quietly appears. And once someone sees those arrows, sleep gets easier in a new way. A Zen mentor explains it with an image so simple it almost feels unfair. Life shoots the first arrow. Pain, loss, sickness, disappointment, rejection. Nobody asks for that arrow, and nobody fails for feeling it. Then the mind often fires a second arrow. Stories, blame, panic, shame. That second arrow is where suffering multiplies fast. And the good news is, the second arrow can be disarmed. He tells the listener not to confuse optional with easy. The second arrow feels automatic because it's a habit, not a choice. It's the brain trying to protect itself by predicting the worst. But prediction isn't protection. It's often just anxiety wearing armor. The mind thinks it's helping, like a guard dog barking at a leaf. Cute at first. Then it keeps everyone awake. He gives a grounded example. Someone reads a message and gets ignored. The first arrow is the sting. Ouch, I feel dismissed. The second arrow shows up. They hate me. I'm not enough. I always ruin everything. Now the body tightens, the heart races, and the night becomes a courtroom. The mentor points out the shift. Pain turned into an identity story. That identity story is the second arrow's favorite hobby. He invites a small experiment that feels doable in real life. When discomfort appears, he suggests asking, first arrow or second arrow? If it's first arrow, the practice is to feel it plainly for a moment. If it's second arrow, the practice is to notice the story being built. Not to shame the mind, just to catch it in the act. It's like noticing someone secretly adding extra weights to your backpack. He uses a kitchen analogy because Zen loves ordinary places. Burning a finger on a hot pan is first arrow, instant and honest. Screaming, "I'm so stupid, my whole day is ruined," is second arrow. The burn already hurt. The insult just keeps reheating it. And yes, he admits, everybody does this, including experienced people. Enlightenment doesn't mean never burning toast. It means less drama about toast. He explains why this matters for mental relaxation at night. At bedtime, the first arrow might be simple: tiredness, tension, sadness. But the second arrow turns it into a Netflix series of worries. One thought becomes 10, 10 become 100, and sleep gets evicted. So the real practice is not force sleep, but remove the extra arrows. Sleep often returns when the mind stops throwing spears at itself. He suggests a gentle script the listener can repeat when the mind spirals. Okay, this is the first arrow, and it's allowed to be here. Then, the second arrow is a story, and I don't have to finish it tonight. He emphasizes the word tonight because it makes the mind feel safe. You're not deleting problems. You're postponing the mental wrestling match. Even the mind likes hearing, "We'll handle it tomorrow, buddy." He adds a practical tool called label and soften. When a painful feeling appears, label it softly. Sadness, fear, anger. Then soften the body in one place. Jaw, shoulders, belly, hands. The body is like a volume knob for the second arrow. When the body softens, the story loses intensity. It's not magic, just nervous system math. He shares a common trap that keeps people stuck. Some try to zen away the first arrow and pretend they're fine. That denial becomes a second arrow wearing a fake smile. The mentor's rule is simple. Feel what's real. Drop what's extra. Tears can be first arrow. Shame about tears is usually second arrow. And shame is a terrible bedtime storyteller. He uses another analogy, weather versus commentary. The first arrow is the rain. It happens, it's wet, it's real. The second arrow is yelling, rain shouldn't exist. This is personal. When someone stops taking rain personally, they still get wet, just less miserable. This is how emotional maturity looks in Zen, less argument with reality. And reality, honestly, doesn't read angry emails anyway. He teaches a short two-breath reset for moments of overwhelm. On the first breath in, notice the first arrow sensation in the body. On the first breath out, relax one muscle group by 5%. On the second breath in, notice the story trying to form. On the second breath out, say internally, not now. Tiny practice, big payoff when repeated. He also warns about the mind's sneaky talent. Spiritual second arrows. The mind may say, a real Zen person wouldn't feel this. That's just the second arrow in a robe, acting holy. The mentor laughs gently at it, like catching a cat wearing a disguise. Zen isn't perfection. It's honesty with less self-attack. And the more honest someone gets, the more peaceful they become. He brings it back to everyday life with a relationship example. Someone speaks harshly. The first arrow is hurt and tightness in the chest. The second arrow is building a lifetime movie. Betrayal, doom, abandonment. The mentor suggests staying with the first arrow for 60 seconds. Often, clarity appears from the pain itself, without the extra tragedy soundtrack. And from clarity, responses get wiser. He offers a simple journaling prompt for people who like writing. Make 2 columns, what happened and what I'm adding. The first column is first arrow, facts and raw feelings. The second column is second arrow, predictions, labels, insults, catastrophes. Seeing it on paper makes the second arrow less convincing, because drama hates daylight. He stresses that this practice doesn't make someone passive. Dropping the second arrow doesn't mean accepting injustice or staying silent. It means acting from clarity instead of from mental fire. Clear action is usually smaller, cleaner, and more effective. Like a straight arrow instead of a shotgun of reactions. And yes, sometimes the clearest action is simply going to sleep. He opens the loop toward what comes next in a natural way. Once someone drops the second arrow, a new space appears inside them. And in that space, the heart has a chance to do something unexpected. Not punish, not rehearse, not replay, something warmer. That's where compassion and loving kindness quietly enter the practice. And the next topic shows how that warmth becomes a real tool, not just a nice idea. He shifts the room's temperature with one idea. The mind becomes what it rehearses. If it rehearses blame, it gets sharp and restless, like a knife left in motion. If it rehearses kindness, it starts to soften without losing strength. This isn't being nice. It's training the nervous system to stop living on guard, because a guarded mind can't fully rest, even when the body is exhausted. So he introduces loving kindness as a skill, not a personality trait. He explains it in a way people instantly recognize. Most people speak to themselves like a rude coach with a whistle and no mercy. They'd never talk to a friend that way. Yet they call themselves lazy at midnight. And then they wonder why sleep won't come. Who sleeps under verbal attack? Loving kindness is changing the inner voice from a threat to a shelter. Not fake positivity, just basic human decency, turned inward. He uses a simple analogy: mental hygiene. Brushing teeth doesn't guarantee perfect teeth. It just prevents rot. Kindness doesn't erase pain, it prevents pain from turning into self-hatred. And self-hatred is basically caffeine for the mind. It keeps it wired. So the practice is small, daily, and boring in the best way, because boring is exactly what racing thoughts hate. He offers the most beginner-friendly form. Short phrases. May I be safe. May I be calm. May I be at ease. He says the phrases don't need to feel true at first to be effective. Seeds don't look like trees, but they still grow when watered. A person can whisper those lines in bed like a lullaby for the mind. And if it feels awkward, he jokes, awkward is still better than cruel. He gives a practical bedtime routine that feels realistic. One hand on the chest, one slow breath, then one phrase on the exhale. He doesn't ask for perfection. He asks for repetition. Because repetition is how the mind learns safety again. A mind that feels safe stops scanning the future for disasters. And when scanning stops, sleep finally finds an open door. He adds a twist that makes it more powerful. Include the body. When people send kindness only as words, the body may not believe it. So he teaches soft eyes, soft jaw, soft belly, while saying the phrase. The body reads softness as a signal. The threat is over. That signal lowers the volume of thoughts without force. It's like dimming a light instead of smashing the lamp. He uses a relatable example, the guilt loop. Someone lies down and suddenly remembers everything they didn't do today. The mind starts listing tasks like a prosecutor reading charges. He says loving kindness doesn't argue with the list. It changes the relationship. Instead of, I'm failing, it becomes, I'm tired and I'm human. That one shift can turn a sleepless night into a recoverable night. He points out the mistake people make with kindness. They aim kindness outward and leave themselves starving. They forgive everyone, but punish themselves for a typo in a text message. He calls that compassion with a blind spot, and it's incredibly common. True compassion includes the person who's doing the practicing. Otherwise, it's like trying to pour tea from an empty cup. He suggests a daytime practice that builds nighttime peace. Pick 3 micro-kindness moments. One for the body, one for the mind, one for someone else. Body, drink water, stretch the neck, take a 2-minute walk. Mind, replace one insult with one neutral truth. This is hard, not I'm useless. Someone else, send a kind message, hold a door, listen without multitasking. Small acts, repeated, teach the brain. Life isn't only threat, it's also care. He includes a gentle way to handle difficult people in the mind. He doesn't start with, may you be happy, for someone who hurt you deeply. He starts smaller. May I not carry this poison tonight? Because the first goal isn't being saintly, it's being free. Then, if possible, he moves to, may you learn, may you heal. Not approval, just releasing the hot coal from the hand. He adds an everyday metaphor that lands fast. Holding grudges is like keeping an unpaid bill open in your brain. Every night, the mind pulls it up again. Checking interest, calculating revenge. Loving kindness is closing the tab. Not because the past was okay, but because the constant replay is stealing the present. And sleep hates a brain that keeps 10 tabs open. He gives a few concrete resources for people who want to go deeper. For a simple, warm approach. The miracle of mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh. For learning self-kindness without fluff. Self-compassion, Kristen Neff. For emotional healing that still feels grounded. Radical acceptance, Tara Brach. He says reading one chapter slowly beats buying 10 books in a panic. Because panic shopping wisdom is still panic. He brings it back to identification, because that's what keeps people listening. Everyone knows the feeling of being tired and still not feeling allowed to rest. They think rest must be earned by suffering first. He gently challenges that. Rest is not a trophy, it's a need, and loving kindness is giving permission without needing a courtroom verdict. That permission is often the missing ingredient for deep sleep. He also explains why kindness works even for non-spiritual people. It's not about beliefs, it's about conditioning. If the mind repeats danger, it becomes hyper-alert. If the mind repeats safety, it becomes less reactive. It's psychology wearing simple clothes. Very zen, very practical. And practical is what makes people trust the teaching. He ends by planting a quiet hook toward what comes next. Once kindness softens the inner war, something surprising appears. Space. And in that space, the mind becomes easier to empty, easier to listen with. That's when a person realizes the problem wasn't too many thoughts. It was a mind that never learned how to be receptive again. And that's exactly why the next story is about the empty cup and beginner's mind. He starts with a small confession. The mind loves being right. It collects opinions like souvenirs and then wonders why it feels heavy. So he introduces Zen's beginner's mind as a kind of fresh air. Not being ignorant, but being available to the present. Because a mind that's always proving something can't truly relax. And deep rest begins the moment the proving stops. He uses the simplest image, a cup already full. If the cup is full of assumptions, nothing new can enter. Even peace can't enter, because peace feels too simple to the ego. So he says, with a half smile, empty the cup, not your life. The goal isn't to delete your personality. It's to stop clinging to yesterday's mental clutter. He explains why beginner's mind feels uncomfortable at first. The mind is addicted to certainty, the way some people are addicted to coffee. Certainty gives a quick buzz. I know what this is. But it also closes the door. No curiosity, no softness, no learning. Beginner's mind is trading that buzz for calm. And calm, at first, can feel almost suspicious. He gives a real-life example that hits home fast. Someone hears a teaching and instantly thinks, I already know that. Then they stop listening, but they keep hearing their own voice. It's like watching a movie while arguing with the screen. Beginner's mind is pressing pause on the inner commentary, so the teaching can actually reach the nervous system. He offers a practical move anyone can do today. Pick one ordinary activity: washing dishes, showering, making tea. Then pretend it's the first time you've ever done it. Feel the temperature. Notice the sound. Watch the steam rise. Not as a performance, but as awareness practicing humility. It's weirdly calming, like putting a heavy bag down. He adds a playful analogy. The mind as a know-it-all roommate. That roommate talks during movies, corrects your pronunciation, and never sleeps. Beginner's mind doesn't kick the roommate out. It simply stops, giving them the remote control. Thanks for the input, he says. Now, sit down. A little humor, and the mind loosens its grip. He connects it directly to insomnia and overthinking. At night, the mind tries to solve tomorrow with today's tired brain. It replays conversations, predicts disasters, and writes fake scripts. Beginner's mind says, "I don't know what will happen." And strangely, that sentence can feel like relief, not fear, because not knowing is lighter than pretending to control. He teaches a tiny bedtime practice called One Breath Beginner. Before sleep, he asks a person to take one slow breath. On the inhale, fresh. On the exhale, release. No big ritual, no pressure to achieve stillness. Just one breath like a reset button for awareness. He points out the sneaky trap, spiritual ambition. People turn calm into another project they have to win. They judge the meditation, grade the silence, compare themselves to monks. He calls that bringing the office into the temple. Beginner's mind drops the scoreboard, and without a scoreboard, the body stops bracing. He gives an example of how to use it with emotions. When anxiety shows up, the mind says, "Here we go again." Beginner's mind says, "Oh, this is what anxiety feels like today." That one word, today, changes everything. It reminds the brain that feelings are weather, not identity, and weather always moves if you stop fighting it. He shares a grounded way to practice in conversation. When someone speaks, he suggests listening like you don't know the ending. Notice the urge to interrupt, to fix, to prove. Then soften the jaw and stay curious for 3 full breaths. It's amazing how often conflict dissolves when certainty relaxes. And fewer conflicts in the day means a quieter mind at night. He adds a simple, empty cup journaling prompt. Write one belief that's been stressing you out lately. Then write, "What if the opposite could also be true sometimes?" Not to confuse yourself, but to create flexibility. A flexible mind bends. A rigid mind snaps. And snapping is the sound sleep hates. He recommends a few resources that fit this topic beautifully. For clear Zen stories, Zen flesh, Zen bones, easy to dip into. For practical presence, peace is every step, Thich Nhat Hanh. For beginner-friendly meditation, wherever you go, there you are, Jon Kabat-Zinn. He says one page, slowly, is better than 10 pages while multitasking, because beginner's mind is allergic to rushing. He ties beginner's mind to mental relaxation in a very direct way. If you stop insisting the moment should be different, tension drops, not because life becomes perfect, but because resistance softens. He calls it making peace with what is, without liking everything. That line lands because it feels honest. Honesty relaxes the body more than hype ever will. He offers a small daily challenge with big payoff. Once a day, catch yourself saying, "I already know." Then replace it with, "Let me see it again." It's a mental stretch, like touching your toes after years of stiffness. At first it's tight, then it becomes natural. And natural is what you want when you're trying to unwind. He keeps the tone gentle, but he doesn't let the listener escape. If the mind is crowded, it's often because it's full of should. Beginner's mind asks one brave question: what if I can rest now? Not later, not after you've earned it, not after you fix everything. Right now, one breath, one moment, one small opening. And with that opening, he quietly leads into the next teaching, letting go like an open hand, He learned that sleep can't be forced like a stubborn door. The harder he pushed, the more the door pushed back. So he stopped treating bedtime like a performance test. He treated it like sitting on a porch after a long day. Nothing to prove, nothing to fix, just a place to be. And that tiny shift changed the whole night. Most people don't lose sleep because they aren't tired. They lose sleep because they're scared of not sleeping. Fear turns the bed into a stage and the mind into a critic. The critic whispers, "Tomorrow is ruined if you fail tonight." He noticed that whisper was the real insomnia, so he stopped feeding it with attention. He used to stack sleep hacks like a tower of plates. Cold room, hot tea, perfect pillow, perfect playlist, perfect prayer. Then he'd check the clock and feel the tower wobble. And the wobble became panic. And panic became more wakefulness. It was like trying to calm water by slapping it. The slaps only made more waves, so he made a simple rule: no clock checking. A clock at night is a judge wearing a bright neon robe. Checking it is walking back into court for no reason. He turned it away like turning down a harsh light. And he told himself, "I'm allowed to be awake." Permission softened his whole body. He reframed awake from failure into information. Awake meant the nervous system was still buzzing a bit, like a fan that keeps spinning after you switch it off. You don't yell at the fan and call it broken. You let it slow down, because that's what fans do. He let his body slow down without shame. He started aiming for rest, not sleep. Rest is always available. Sleep arrives when it feels safe. So he'd say, "Body, we're resting now. That's enough." He loosened his jaw like he was about to smile in secret. He dropped his shoulders like setting down heavy grocery bags. And he breathed like cooling soup, slow, gentle, patient. He used a body scan with simple everyday images. Forehead soft like warm butter on toast. Eyes heavy like curtains after a long day. Chest unclenched like a fist remembering it's a hand. Belly falling like a tide going out. No drama. Hands open like keys set down on a table. When thoughts arrived, he stopped arguing with them. He labeled them like sticky notes. Planning, replaying, worrying. A thought loses power when it's seen as a thought. He imagined each thought as a pop-up ad on a screen. Annoying, yes, but not a prophecy from the universe. Close it gently. Return to breath. He noticed his mind demanded a guarantee before relaxing. But life doesn't give guarantees. It gives moments. So he practiced trusting the bed, like trusting a chair. You don't interrogate a chair before sitting down. You sit, and the chair proves itself by holding you. He let the bed hold him without interrogation. He stopped treating tomorrow like fragile glass. Yes, a short night can feel rough, but humans are sturdy. He remembered tired days where he still laughed and functioned. He remembered bad mornings that became surprisingly okay. The brain exaggerates like a dramatic aunt at family dinner. He smiled and said, "Thanks, but I'm fine." He built a 3-minute shutdown ritual. One line. Tomorrow's first step is Yeti Korni Tweet. One line. Tonight, I release Teddy Tweet Pui. One line. Today, I did enough because Day Twitu. Then he closed the notebook like closing a shop gate. The mind relaxes when the store is closed. He simplified the room on purpose. No bright screens, no doom scrolling, no midnight debates. If he needed sound, he chose one thing only: rain, fan, or soft water. Simple and steady. Too many options keeps the mind shopping all night, and insomnia is already expensive enough. He practiced gentle boredom as a superpower. Not boredom like misery, but boredom like quiet space. He let the mind get tired of its own loops. He didn't entertain every thought like a talk show host. He became the audience that doesn't clap for every joke. And the show got quieter. Sometimes he got up without panic. Dim light, slow steps, warm water, a calm book. He treated it like a peaceful intermission, not a failure. Then he returned to bed when heaviness returned. No rushing, no forcing, no, come on, sleep. Just returning like a friend returns home. And then the strangest thing happened. Sleep came back when he stopped chasing it. Like a shy cat that returns when you sit still. He didn't fix sleep. He rebuilt trust with his body. And that trust raised a new question in him. If forcing sleep fails, what else is he forcing in life? He once realized his mind sounded like a noisy kitchen party. Someone chopping, someone laughing, someone arguing, music blasting. And in the middle, him, trying to hear a whisper of peace. So he stopped begging for silence and started reducing noise, one small piece at a time, like tidying a messy desk, because you can't relax in a room full of alarms. He called it open tabs living. Unfinished tasks buzzing like flies in the background, old conversations replaying like broken voice notes, worries lined up like customers demanding service right now. The brain can't rest while hosting a full-time conference, so he stopped letting every tab stay open. He noticed the loudest noise wasn't outside. It was the inner narrator explaining everything endlessly. It judged his past like a strict teacher with a red pen. It predicted his future like a fortune teller who only sees storms. It even narrated his bedtime like a sports commentator. So he gave it a job description. Not the boss at night. He used a funny analogy that worked instantly. His mind was like a phone with 2% battery left. At 2%, you don't run 5 apps and start big updates. You plug it in, dim the screen, and let it recover. Nighttime is the charger, not the performance stage. So he started using low power mode for life. He cleaned his mental room before bed, not by solving everything, but by naming everything. He wrote, "This is pending," instead of holding it in the chest. He parked problems like cars in a garage for tomorrow. The brain relaxes when it knows it won't forget. A notebook became a safe storage box. He made peace with unfinished things. Unfinished doesn't mean unsafe. It means human. A sink can have dishes and the world still turns. An email can wait and you still deserve rest. He repeated, "My life can be messy and still meaningful." That sentence felt like opening a window. He got honest about inputs. What he consumes becomes what his mind chews at 2 a.m. If he feeds it drama, it digests drama in the dark. If he feeds it calm, it replays calmer rhythms. So he built a night diet for his attention. Not strict, just kind. He made one simple digital boundary. Phone charging across the room, not on the pillow. Notifications off like turning down the city lights. If he needed an alarm, he used a basic clock. He joked, "My bed is not a meeting room for the internet." His nervous system agreed with a deeper exhale. He practiced one small closure each evening. Fold one shirt, wash one cup, clear one tiny surface. The mind relaxes when it sees a loop completed. It's like hearing the final chord of a song. Completion tells the body, we're safe enough. And safe enough is the doorway to sleep. He used breath as a broom. Inhale, sweep attention back into the body. Exhale, sweep tension out of the shoulders and jaw. He didn't try to empty the mind like a harsh command. He cleaned around the thoughts like moving gently around furniture. You can sleep in a room with furniture. He learned sound acceptance. If a dog barked, he didn't fight it. Fighting sound creates two sounds, noise and resistance. He thought, the world is alive, and let it pass. Like waves, heard, then gone, then quiet again. Resistance was the real thief. When the mind was especially busy, he did a brain dump, 5 minutes of writing, messy and honest, no fixing, no polishing, no solving, just unloading. Then one last line, this can wait. He closed the notebook like closing a lid on a box. His chest always softened after that. He started noticing a bold pattern. The quieter his evenings, the kinder his thoughts became. The kinder his thoughts, the easier his body trusted sleep. And trust created space for a deeper lesson. Noise isn't only sound, it's resistance to sound. So what happens when resistance becomes the practice? He began practicing one thing at a time, like a vow. One conversation, one task, one breath, one cup of tea. He stopped multitasking his way into numbness. He stopped calling chaos productivity. And slowly, his nights started feeling less crowded. Because the room of noise finally had an exit. He used to admire the oak tree. Strong, stiff, proud, refusing to bend for anything. Then he watched a storm snap an oak in half. Meanwhile, bamboo bowed, shook, and stood back up. That image became a mirror he couldn't ignore. He realized he was trying to be oak in a bamboo world. Most people don't break because they're weak. They break because they refuse to bend. They insist life must be easy before they can be calm. They insist emotions must be fixed before they can rest. They insist sleep must be perfect, or it's a disaster. That rigidity is what snaps them. He noticed his own rigidity in small moments. A plan changes, and he feels personally attacked. A delay happens, and he thinks the day is ruined. A disagreement shows up, and he builds a courtroom in his mind. Even minor discomfort becomes a loud emergency siren. So he asked, where am I being oak today? He practiced flexibility through the body first. When irritation hit, he relaxed one muscle on purpose. Jaw, shoulders, hands, just one place to bend. That tiny physical bend softened the emotional bend too. The body leads the mind more than people like to admit. A relaxed jaw can prevent a whole argument. He trained flexible language like a skill. Instead of, I can't, he tried, I'm learning. Instead of, this is terrible, he tried, this is uncomfortable. Instead of, I must fix it, he tried, I can hold it. Words are steering wheels. Small turns change the road. He laughed at how dramatic his old words were. At night, rigidity showed up as perfectionism. Perfect sleep or total failure. No middle ground. Perfect calm or I'm broken. No nuance. Bamboo thinking says, some rest is still rest. A few awakenings don't cancel the whole night. You don't throw away a meal because of one bite. He practiced flexibility with other people too. If someone didn't reply, Oak Mind made a story. They don't care. I'm rejected. I'm foolish. I knew it. Bamboo Mind asked, what else could be true? Maybe they're tired, overwhelmed, or simply busy living. Compassion is flexibility with a warm heart. He remembered a time he made a big mistake. He missed a deadline and carried shame like a backpack of rocks. Then he saw the truth. Shame didn't solve anything. It only made him avoid the next step. So he chose bamboo, admit, adjust, act. And the world got lighter when he moved. He used a funny analogy for overthinking. Overthinking is gripping a bar of soap too tightly. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Bamboo holds gently, and the soap stays. So he softened his grip on thoughts. He let them pass like water through fingers. He used the 3 options rule during stress. Option A, change the situation if possible. Option B, change the attitude if change isn't possible. Option C, change attention briefly to reset the nervous system. Having options calms the body like opening a window. Bamboo doesn't panic. It adapts. He stopped calling flexibility weakness. He started calling it wisdom with a spine. Strong people bend because they trust they can return. Weakness is pretending you feel nothing at all. Strength is feeling, bending, and choosing the next step, soft and solid at the same time. He practiced bamboo as a bedtime posture. If sleep didn't come, he didn't declare war. He bent into rest, breath, darkness, and patience. He stopped trying to win and started allowing. And allowing became a bridge to the next lesson. If bending helps the body, what helps the mind wait? He sensed the next teacher arriving quietly. Not a teacher with big speeches, but with slow timing. A teacher that shows up when results don't come fast. A teacher that makes people uncomfortable at first. That teacher is patience, and it has no rush. So he leaned in, curious instead of demanding. He used to crave certainty like sugar. One clear answer, one plan, one guarantee, and he'd relax. But life kept handing him fog, thick, stubborn, endless. Health questions, relationship confusion, money stress, future unknowns. So he adopted a new image, a lantern in fog. You don't need the whole road, just the next 5 steps. The mind hates fog because fog feels like danger. It says, if we can't predict, we can't survive. But modern fog is rarely a tiger in the bushes. It's emails, bills, choices, waiting, and what if. So he stopped asking, how do I remove fog? He asked, how do I walk kindly inside it? He noticed 2 common mistakes people make. They obsess and overplan until they burn out. Or they avoid and pretend nothing exists until it explodes. Both are ways of fighting uncertainty. Lantern living is honest, calm, and steady. It says, yes, it's foggy, and I can still move. He practiced next right action. Not 10 actions, not perfect action, just the next right one. If he feared work, the next action was 1 email. If he feared health, the next action was 1 appointment. If he feared life, the next action was 1 short walk. Small actions are lantern light. He stopped demanding emotional certainty too. Sometimes sadness shows up without a neat explanation. Old him would interrogate it like a detective. New him sat beside it like a friend in silence. Not, why are you here? But, I'm here with you. That presence made the feeling soften faster. He once waited for a message that would decide his week. Every hour felt like a verdict being delayed. Then he caught himself living inside a future that wasn't real. So he returned to something simple, washing one plate. And the plate became a teacher without trying. It said, "This is the only moment you can touch." He used a phrase when uncertainty spiked. Not knowing is allowed. At first it felt fake, like a smile glued on. Then it felt like removing a tight shoe. Permission calms the nervous system more than answers do. Permission is quiet medicine. He practiced time-boxing worry. He gave worry a chair, not the whole house. 10 minutes earlier in the day, he wrote worries down. Then he closed the page and said, "We already met today." At night, when worry returned, he said, "Wrong appointment." And he returned to breath and body. He learned to respect sleep as a built-in healer. Sleep is like digestion. It works when you stop meddling. Fog nights were when he needed softness the most. So he treated bed like a clinic for the soul. No harsh judgments, no strict expectations, no panic drills, only signals of safety. He noticed a certainty mask in himself. Sometimes he demanded answers because he felt embarrassed to not know. Like not knowing made him less worthy as a person. But the wisest people he admired were friendly with "I don't know." So he practiced saying it without shame. "I don't know yet, but I'm paying attention." He used his senses as an anchor. When the mind time traveled, he asked, "What do I hear? What do I feel on my skin right now? What is one color in this room right now?" Senses are lantern light because they live in the present. A fingertip can't time travel. He started trusting the lantern inside, not outside. Steady attention became his real light source, and steady attention made fog less threatening. Fog stayed fog, but he stopped calling it doom. That shift opened the next doorway naturally. If fog is normal, patience becomes the shelter. He felt patience approaching like a slow friend. Not exciting, not flashy, but deeply reliable. A friend who doesn't sprint, yet never abandons you. A friend that teaches without shouting. And he realized he needed that friend now. So he prepared to learn waiting without suffering. He once watched tea cool and felt strangely offended. He wanted it perfect now, comfortable now, ready now. Then he laughed because the tea didn't care at all. Tea cools at its own pace, like a tired nervous system. That simple moment taught patience without a lecture. Waiting isn't punishment, it's process. The restless mind hates process. It wants results like fast food, hot, immediate, predictable. But calm is more like bread rising in a bowl. You can't scream at dough and make it inflate. You cover it, you wait, and time does its work. So he treated his mind like dough, not a machine. He noticed impatience hides a painful belief. If I feel bad, something is wrong with me. So he tried a different belief. If I feel bad, something in me is asking for time. Time isn't failure. Time is a teacher. That softened his relationship with hard nights. He trained micro-patience during the day, waiting for water to boil without grabbing the phone, standing in a line while feeling feet on the ground, sitting at a red light without rehearsing arguments. Small weights train the nervous system for big weights. Patience becomes a muscle, not a personality trait. He practiced patience with emotions too. Instead of fixing sadness, he offered it a chair. Instead of wrestling anxiety, he offered it a blanket. He told it, "You can be here, but you can't drive." That boundary is patience with backbone. Gentle leadership, not surrender. One night he woke at 3 a.m., angry. Old him would panic and start doing sleep aggressively. New him whispered, "Let the tea cool." He watched the breath swing like a slow pendulum. The body loosened like knots untying by themselves. He fell asleep without winning anything. He practiced patience with people as well. People change slower than our expectations. Friends heal at their pace. Partners learn at their pace. Even he learns at his pace, no matter how inspired he feels. So he replaced "Why aren't you different?" with "What's one step?" Small steps are kindness in motion. He used a funny image to stop rushing himself. Rushing is like pulling a flower open with your fingers. You don't get a better flower, you get a broken one. Patience lets the flower open when it's ready. So he stopped prying himself open. He let growth happen in season. He built patience into bedtime in a practical way. If sleep didn't arrive, he didn't punish himself in the dark. He got up gently. Dim lights, warm water, quiet pages. He chose calm books that soothe instead of excite. Peace is every step, or Zen mind, beginner's mind. Not to study hard, but to soften. He embraced good enough sleep. Perfection is loud. Good enough is quiet. A night can be imperfect and still restorative. Like a cloudy day can still give light. He stopped grading nights like a strict teacher. He started living nights like a human. He noticed patience is time plus trust. Trust that the body knows how to unwind. Trust that discomfort changes if you stop feeding it fear. Trust that even this feeling will pass, like weather. And trust opened a deeper question in him. If time changes everything, what about the body time changes? He felt the next topic arriving softly, not as a philosophy, but as tenderness toward the self, because waiting often reveals a hidden ache, self-judgment. And self-judgment sits in the body like a stone. So he turned his attention to the body with kindness. Impermanence, he realized, doesn't have to be cruel. He used to treat his body like a tool that must perform. If it was tired, he pushed. If it was anxious, he scolded. If it was sick, he felt betrayed, like a deal was broken. Then he met a gentler idea. The body is borrowed. Not spooky, not dramatic, just deeply true. Borrowed things deserve care, not punishment. He listened to how people talk to their bodies. My body is failing me. I hate how I look. I'm so weak. He realized he would never speak that way to a friend. Yet he spoke that way to himself without noticing. So he practiced a new tone. Soft hands, soft voice. Hey, body, thank you for carrying me. He saw the body like seasons. Energy rises and falls. Mood changes like weather. Skin changes. Strength changes. Appetite changes. Sleep changes. Trying to freeze the body is like trying to freeze the ocean. So he learned to surf instead of control. Some days you ride, some days you rest. A personal moment, forced honesty. He got sick after weeks of ignoring exhaustion. The body didn't betray him. It sent letters he kept throwing away. So he finally read the letters. They said, "Slow down, or I will slow you down." He laughed because the body has blunt humor. He practiced kindness through simple actions. A warm shower became a small ceremony of respect. Stretching became an apology for ignoring tension all day. Water became a peace offering to the nervous system. He stopped waiting for motivation and offered care first. Care often creates motivation afterward. At night, he changed his relationship with discomfort. Instead of, "I can't stand this," he tried, "This is here right now." He placed a hand on his chest and breathed into it. He softened the belly, loosened the eyes, relaxed the tongue. He treated discomfort like a guest passing through. Guests don't need a fight. They need a chair. He learned to separate pain from panic. Pain is sensation. Panic is the story about sensation. A tight chest can be danger, or it can be stress releasing. A racing heart can be doom, or it can be adrenaline fading. He didn't deny reality. He denied catastrophe, and that reduced suffering immediately. He noticed the body stores old moments. A harsh comment becomes tense shoulders for years. A breakup becomes a tight throat that returns at night. A scary memory becomes shallow breathing without warning. So he practiced releasing through movement. A slow walk can be therapy for the ribs. He used soft discipline instead of punishment. Same bedtime most nights, cool room, simpler evenings, lighter meals at night, less caffeine, less late drama. Not because he's perfect, but because he respects the body. Routine is kindness that repeats until it becomes safety. The body loves repeated safety. He learned one powerful bedtime phrase: "This body is safe enough right now." Not perfect, not forever, not guaranteed. Safe enough. Safe enough is the doorway to rest. The nervous system doesn't need luxury. It needs signals. Soft blanket, slower breath, less threat in the mind. He started noticing something tender after the noise reduced. When the body relaxes, loneliness sometimes appears. Not dramatic loneliness, but quiet background loneliness. The kind that shows up when distractions stop. So he didn't label it failure, he labeled it honesty. Silence reveals what needs love. He realized the next practice must be about warmth. Not warmth from another person only, but from within. A way to hold the self without cringe or embarrassment. A way to become a safe place to land. And that leads directly to the next teaching. How does he turn silence into inner friendship? He discovered silence can feel like a room with empty chairs. At first, that emptiness scares people into filling it fast. Scrolling, snacking, talking, thinking, anything to avoid the chairs. But once he stayed, he heard something beneath the loneliness. A wish whispered, "May I be held." So he trained a quiet friend inside his own mind. He noticed loneliness often hides behind busyness. Busy people can be lonely because they never meet themselves. They're always producing, fixing, proving, performing. Night removes costumes and leaves the raw human underneath. And that raw human doesn't need judgment. It needs gentleness. So he stopped calling loneliness weakness. He used a loving kindness practice that felt awkward at first. Hand on heart, soft breath, simple words. May I be safe? May I be peaceful? May I be kind to myself tonight? Awkward became warm, like a scarf on a cold evening. He realized the inner voice is either bully or friend. Most people don't notice the voice until it hurts. So he practiced catching harsh phrases and rewriting them. "This is unbearable" became, This is hard, and I can breathe. I'm behind became I'm learning at my pace. I'm alone became I'm here with myself. He remembered a night after a rough day. He lay there feeling misunderstood by the whole world. Then he imagined his younger self sitting at the bed edge. Not fantasy, but symbol, like a mirror with a heartbeat. He spoke inwardly like a mentor. You're not bad for feeling this. Tears came, and relief followed behind them. He practiced small belonging during daylight. One kind message to a friend before night arrives. One honest conversation, even short, even imperfect. Joining a gentle community space with kind people. Belonging is built like a fire. Small sticks first. Warmth grows when you feed it consistently. He used humor to deflate dramatic isolation. His brain acted like he was the last human on Earth. Meanwhile, millions were also awake, staring at ceilings. So he whispered, "Welcome to the club, buddy." Shared humanity is an invisible blanket against shame. And shame is what makes loneliness sharp. He stopped feeding loneliness with comparison. Comparison says, everyone else is thriving, you're the exception. But social media is a highlight reel with filters and editing. So he replaced comparison with compassion. Everyone is carrying something, even if it looks shiny. That softened his heart immediately. He learned to listen to himself like a friend would. Not, "How do I fix you?" but "What do you need?" Sometimes the answer was water. Sometimes it was a slower day tomorrow. Sometimes it was forgiveness for pushing too hard. Needs often want presence, not solutions. He noticed a new kind of strength. When he became his own quiet friend, he needed less rescuing, not because people don't matter. People matter deeply, but because desperation softened into steadiness. And steadiness creates healthier connection with others. He stopped clinging and started relating. He added a ritual of self-respect to his evenings. Clean pajamas, a warm drink, dim lights, slower movements. Not luxury, just a signal. You matter enough to care. The body hears that message louder than any pep talk, and the mind starts believing safety is real. Safety invites sleep like a soft knock at the door. He noticed something surprising on Everyday Buddhism nights. When he spoke gently, people felt gently, even through a screen. Kindness carries a frequency the nervous system recognizes. It doesn't fix life, but it makes life livable right now. And that livability changes everything at 2 a.m. Because sleep comes easier to a held heart. This topic opened a final practical bridge. If the mind becomes a friend, it needs a home base, a place to return when thoughts wander and emotions flare, a place that doesn't require permission or perfection. That home base is ancient, simple, and always nearby. So the next door opens, returning to breath without turning it into work. He learned breath is the simplest teacher alive. It doesn't lecture, it doesn't rush, it doesn't demand results. It arrives, it leaves, and it returns like a loyal friend. In that rhythm, the mind remembers how to rest. So he stopped treating breath like a strict technique. He treated it like a doorway back home. He reminded himself meditation isn't a performance. No perfect posture required. No perfect silence required. A tired person can practice because a tired person can breathe. The point isn't to be impressive. The point is to return. Returning is the whole art, again and again. Even one return is a win. He created a 1-minute ritual called 3 Doors. Door 1, body, feel blanket weight, soften the jaw. Door 2, breath, count 4 in, 6 out, like slow waves. Door 3, mind, label what appears, let it drift away. 1 minute per door, simple and clean. The room changes without effort. He kept the practice friendly on purpose. If he missed a count, he didn't punish himself. He smiled like, "Ah, there goes the monkey again." Then he returned like picking up a spoon you dropped. Kind repetition trains safety in the nervous system. Harsh repetition trains fear. He used the exhale as his main tool. Exhale is setting down a backpack you forgot you wore. Exhale is dropping the day without a speech. Exhale tells the body, "No chase tonight." Inhale is simply arriving here, alive, now. Simple, but powerful. When thoughts got loud, he gave them a job. Ride the breath, he'd say, like giving a child a handrail. He imagined thoughts on leaves floating down a river. The river is breath, steady and patient. He didn't yank leaves. He kept the river moving. Leaves always move when the river moves. He practiced the soft gaze of the mind. Instead of staring at thoughts like enemies, he looked past them, like seeing clouds, but focusing on the sky behind. Thoughts are clouds. Awareness is sky. Clouds can be stormy, but the sky doesn't panic. That space is where sleep likes to enter. He kept it practical for real nights. If anxious, he lengthened exhale slightly. If restless, he softened shoulders and slowed blinking. If wired, he stood up and did 10 slow stretches. Then back to bed, back to breath. No drama. Simple tools keep the mind from turning practice into work. He trained breath during the day so nights got easier. Breath while washing hands. Breath while opening doors. Breath while waiting for a page to load. Breath while hearing criticism without collapsing. Daytime practice builds nighttime trust. He left gentle messages for the morning. 1 sentence on paper. Start slow. Or 1 thing at a time. Or be bamboo. Short sentences are harder for anxiety to hijack. And softer mornings create softer nights. He ended each session with permission. Even if sleep comes late, I can rest now. He stopped negotiating, stopped chasing, stopped performing. Breath, blanket, darkness, and a kinder mind. That was enough for the body to trust the night. Trust is the real lullaby. He noticed something deeper starting to happen. When breath became home, life began to reorganize around home. He reacted less, rushed less, and fought less during the day. And because daytime softened, nighttime softened too. Sleep stopped being a battle and became a return. Return, again, was the quiet victory. And then a final curiosity appeared, bright and calm. If breath can be home at night, can it be home all day? Can he live from home instead of visiting it sometimes? That question doesn't need a fast answer. It needs living, 1 small return at a time. And that's where the next chapter naturally begins. He realized the night doesn't start at bedtime. It starts in the first 10 minutes of the morning. If he began the day like a fire alarm, phone, news, rushing, his body stayed on call all day. And a nervous system that stays on call doesn't sleep easily. So he built a tiny morning ritual that felt almost too simple. And that simplicity quietly rewired his nights. He called it the empty cup. Before pouring anything in, noise, tasks, opinions, he checked what was already there. Tension in the jaw, heaviness behind the eyes, that invisible hurry in the chest. He didn't try to fix it like a mechanic. He just noticed like a monk. Because noticing is already a kind of release. And most people skip noticing for years. He stopped grabbing his phone first thing. Not because phones are evil, but because his mind is impressionable at dawn. The first thing you feed a mind is what it chews all day. So he gave himself 10 minutes of no input. Just water, bathroom, a stretch, and a slow breath. No drama, no dopamine spikes, no emergency headlines. He used a ridiculously practical technique. 3 slow sips. 3 sips of water. Each sip paired with 1 long exhale. It sounds silly until you feel your shoulders drop by themselves. That exhale is the body receiving a signal. We're not being chased. And when the body hears that in the morning, it remembers it at night. Signals matter more than motivation. Then he did one kind intention. Not a giant goal, not a perfect plan, just one sentence. Today I'll speak slower. Today I'll do one thing at a time. Today I'll rest my eyes every hour. Intentions are steering wheels, not chains. Small steering beats, big speeches. He also practiced first task small. A made bed, a washed cup, a 2-minute tidy. Completion early in the day calms the brain sphere of unfinished life. It's like telling the mind, we can close loops. And a mind that trusts closure relaxes faster at night. Closure is a bedtime gift you prepare in the morning. When stress hit later, he remembered the cup. He asked, what am I pouring in right now? More rushing, more caffeine, more conflict, more screens. Sometimes he chose a different pour, a short walk, a simple meal, softer music. Not perfection, just a better next sip. That's Buddhist practice in modern clothes. He noticed the funniest truth. Most people try to fix sleep only at night, like cleaning the house only when guests arrive. But the house got messy all day. So he cleaned gently all day in tiny moments. And at bedtime, the mind wasn't a crowded marketplace. It was a quieter room, and this changed the way he taught on Everyday Buddhism. He stopped promising instant peace. He offered repeatable peace. Peace you can practice while brushing your teeth. Peace you can practice while waiting for a reply. Peace you can practice while your life is still life. That kind of peace actually lasts. By the time night arrived, sleep felt less like a fight. Because the nervous system had been reassured all day. It had heard 100 small, safe enough messages. And those messages stacked like soft pillows, one on top of the other. He didn't win sleep. He earned trust. And trust is the real gate that opens. That's when the full loop closed gently. From morning cup to nighttime rest, it was one training, one path, not 2 separate lives. And once he saw that, he couldn't unsee it. Because the calm you want at night is built by the way you live the day. So the story naturally lands in the conclusion. If he had to say it in one honest sentence, it would be this. You don't relax by solving your mind. You relax by becoming a safe place for your mind to rest. And that's not mystical or complicated. It's built with small choices that feel almost boring, until you realize they're changing your entire nervous system from the inside out. So tonight, don't try to be perfect. try to be gentle. If you only remember one thing, remember the safe enough principle. Safe enough breath. Safe enough rest. Safe enough silence. Because the body doesn't need a motivational speech at 2 a.m. It needs a signal that the fight is over. And here's a question that can change everything. What is one tiny habit you'll drop today so your future self can sleep better tonight? Is it checking the clock? Is it carrying problems into bed? Is it feeding your mind with noise right before darkness? Write your answer in the comments, because naming it is already the first step of release. And someone reading your comment might feel less alone. Now, if this helped you even a little, subscribe to Everyday Buddhism and turn on notifications. These long Zen stories and Buddhist teachings are made to be your calm place, especially on the nights when your mind feels like a crowded room. For your end screen, the perfect next video is 3 hours of deep Zen meditation for anxiety relief. Breath as home base. Because after stories soften the mind, the next step is training the breath gently. So calm becomes something you can return to any time, not only at bedtime,